Hello everybody and welcome back to Odin's Movie Blog. I am the Critic Who's a Cynic. Hope everyone is doing well. I've been gone for a couple days. I was on a theme park trip. If you've been following my live streams, you know exactly what's been going on with that. But I am back now and I am ready to talk about some of the things that I have missed. I've covered these a little bit in my live streams and on Twitter, but I wanted to cover them in more detail because I really do think they're important. The first thing I'm going to talk about today is going to be Colin Trevorrow and just his amazing, I don't want to call it a rant, but it was a series of tweets that were just all like spot on, just very raw truth about the fans, about fandom in general, and I think it's something that Lucasfilm needs to pay attention to. If Lucasfilm is going to do nothing else, they should be reading these series of tweets by Colin Trevorrow because I think it's going to help them in the long run. I plan on doing a couple other topics today in separate videos because I really do have a lot to say about this one in particular, so please look forward to those, but let's just dive in right now to Colin Trevorrow. So right now we have Colin Trevorrow, and the first thing that he says, really the first tweet that really gets him going, this happened on Wednesday, where he just went on this firestorm of just amazing tweets, amazing content, and I think it's something not only to point out, but also something to really elaborate on and to explain a little bit because I think it's important. Again, context is so important. I've said this in so many different videos. Understanding the context of an article, understanding the context of where someone is coming from is so crucial to being able to understand not only what they are trying to say, but also the truth as well. And I think that's so important for us to understand the truth because that's what we want. That's what so many of us on YouTube, so many of us on, who are part of the Star Wars fandom or any fandom in general, what we want is we just want people to be honest with us. We want people to be truthful to us. And we also want people to want the best for a franchise that we also want the best for. Because at the end of the day, that's what it is. We want the best for Star Wars. We want the best for any franchise that we're a fan of. And when we see people like the people running Lucasfilm right now doing what they're doing, what we really have concern is, well, we don't know if the franchise is going to be around or survive this because of the nonsense that you're doing, and Colin Trevorrow really touches on that too. So the first tweet that Colin Trevorrow used was he said this about Screen Rant. He said, "I wouldn't take Screen Rant too seriously. The website is designed to monetize the passion of fandom. Their writers generate negative clickbait because they are paid to do it. I wouldn't blame the freelancers who make the content. They're just doing their job." And so I would agree and disagree with the statement. For one, I agree that they are trying, that these sites like Screen Rant, like Cinema Blend, like if you want to find a whole list of shill nonsense media sites, garbage tier media sites, go check out Ethan Van Sciver. Almost every video he'll pull out a little piece of paper that he has that has a whole list of all the sites that he considers to be garbage tier, and it's all spot on analysis in my opinion. But he's absolutely right here. Especially they are trying to create negative feedback, they're trying to create negative clickbait because what they want to do is they want to make the fandom mad. Why? Because they feel that if they do that, they will get more clicks. In their mindset, even negative clicks, even negative feedback, even negative reaction is still good. It's the old saying that, just because it's negative attention or negative press, any press is good press. And there is always something true to that and something not true to that, because bad press, yes, it might be good for a short period of time, but then when the dust settles and when the stories stop, what are you left with? A destroyed character. And I feel like that's what's going on here with these media websites, is that, yeah, they might be getting an uptick now. They might be getting more people viewing their sites. I know that I tell every person whenever I do a article review, whenever I talk about and try to analyze something that the media is saying, I say, please do not go to this site. Do not support this article. Do not support this nonsense. And I feel like that at the end of the day, that's what's going to happen, is that, yeah, they might have a slight uptick, but at the end of the day, what you're creating is you're creating more people who distrust you, who don't want to trust your content, who don't want to give you any attention for your non-Star Wars related content in this scenario in particular. And what you end up doing is you end up hurting yourself in the long run. So when it comes to people like Screen Rant or Cinema Blend or any of the other sites that are out there, what they're doing is, yeah, they might be trying to do that clickbait to try and get more people to see their content, but at the end of the day, they're hurting themselves, especially since the content that they're putting out is really garbage tier. And I know that a lot of people use that phrase, but when I say it, I mean what I say. Because as you've seen, whenever I've gone into these articles, I've shown you, okay, well, this is definitely either a half-truth at best, sometimes just a downright lie, or something that is just not based in the proper context and does not understand the situation going on. And I think that's so important to do, because what we end up doing, the ones who talk about these articles, the ones who bring attention to them, is we try and show you why it's wrong, what's wrong with it, and also what is missing from it. What important key information are they leaving out? And I feel like the longer that we do that, the more that we can continue to do that, it's not going to bring them more attention. It's not going to help them, but it's going to hurt them, because it's going to expose them for who they really are and expose their content for what it really is as well. So I know I've had some people in my comments who have tried to say, oh, you're just feeding into this, and they might be right to an extent, But at the end of the day, what I think I'm doing and what I think a lot of other people are trying to do is to expose them for who they really are. And when you do that, so many people are going to say, hey, you know what? I agree with this, or maybe they don't agree with it, but the people who do agree with that, what I would assume, if you're watching this, you're probably going to agree with it. You're going to say, you know what? I used to like these sites, but you know what? I'm just not going to give them my attention anymore. And guess what? In the long run, that's going to hurt them, especially when they move on from it, or they try to move on from it. Maybe they try and rebrand themselves, because all the people are going to remember is, oh, wait a minute, this was the site that made stuff up or told half-truths or tried to spin certain stories in a certain way to get a certain reaction out of me, and that's not going to sit well with people. So Colin Trevorrow is right on this, but also I don't think in the end of the day it's going to help them very much either. He continues to say, fake controversy and toxicity in fandom makes their parent corporation money, so of course they'll stoke that fire. They are profiting off your passion. So they're trying to say that basically there's this fake controversy basically about how, you know, how they're talking about how the fans are toxic, how it's this toxic male white masculinity, all these other things. They're just making stuff up. They're making up nonsense, because just on that statement alone, I've already said 1,000 times all the different channels that are out there of various races, genders, backgrounds, doesn't matter. We are so diverse as a community. We have one thing in common with each other, and that is we don't like the current direction of Star Wars. And so I think Colin Trevorrow is absolutely right on this, is that there is indeed this fake toxicity, this fake controversy that they're creating to, again, try and feed off of our passion. But once again, I disagree, because I think it's going to hurt them in the long run, because when the truth finally gets out there, and I think that we're really trying to do the best that we can, you know, people like me, Geeks and Gamers, you know, Jeremy at Geeks and Gamers, Ethan Van Sciver, World Class BSers, there's so many channels that are just, and there's more channels on the way, because I've been in contact with so many people who want to start their own channel because they want to add to the conversation. And so what I think is going to happen at the end of the day is that there are just going to be so many people out there who are going to have these thoughts and are going to understand where we're coming from, that it's going to hurt these people in the long run. All right, he continues, and I feel like this is where he really starts to focus on Star Wars in particular. He may not come off talking about it in a very direct way, but I really do think there are a lot of correlations between what he talks about in the Jurassic World universe as far as fandom is concerned, and also the Star Wars universe as well. So he says, I love our fans. Wouldn't that be great if we had anyone like Rian Johnson or Kathleen Kennedy try and just say that and actually mean it? Because here's how Colin Trevorrow is different than so many of the other people. He not just says, I love our fans, but then he backs it up by explaining what love actually means for fandom. So he says, I love our fans. I rely on their deep understanding of the franchise, and I listen to them when we push boundaries and make bold choices. Looking at you, Rian Johnson, when you tried to subvert expectations, I guarantee you didn't show love to the fans and didn't want to listen to them and didn't understand that they have a deep understanding of the franchise that you were essentially ruining, and have made it even worse by the fact that you've just decided to attack them in every way that you possibly can. And that goes for everyone else at Lucasfilm as well, who've remained relatively silent on all the things going on. And again, that doesn't really show a lot of love for the franchise. Continues on saying, they may not agree with every choice, but they support us because they want kids around the world to have dinosaur movies too. And I think that this really does speak so much truth to Star Wars too. What do we want? We do not want Star Wars to fail. We do not want Star Wars to die. We want Star Wars to succeed. We want Star Wars to do well. Just like anyone who's a fan of any franchise, they want it to do well. They want it to succeed. They want it to go on to the next generation. They want it to be something that people, their children, want to dive into, that they want to love as well. So that way it can be this family dynamic. Colin Trevorrow understands that. Lucasfilm obviously does not, because I guarantee you they're not the ones who are acting in this way of showing love, because they understand where the fans are coming from. Because again, we're not trying to destroy Star Wars. We're trying to make Star Wars be we're trying to make Star Wars sustainable. And the current model that they're going on, this whole subversion of expectations, is really just destroying the universe. Because narratively speaking, when you have a film that sets up a universe and then you have a middle film in a franchise destroy everything that was set up, narratively that doesn't work. Narratively, it makes no sense whatsoever. Add on top of that everything that they're doing with the original characters, and there's no continuity. There's no continuity, and those are the things that we're trying to point out. And what does Rian Johnson do? What does Kathleen Kennedy do? What do all these people do? They try and say, oh, it's just a toxic fandom. These are the people who are racist and sexist, living in their mom's basements, etc., etc. And it's just total nonsense. It's not based in reality. It's not based in the proper context. And at the end of the day, they are the ones who are destroying Star Wars. We are the ones trying to save it. We are the ones that are trying to save it. Because if there was this same understanding, if someone like a Colin Trevorrow was in charge of Lucasfilm, or was in charge of public relations or anything, that would be a totally different story, because he would be able to say, hey, I may not agree with your take on my movie, but I can at least respect it, and I will hear you, and I will be open to hearing what you and others might have to say. Because at the end of the day, Colin Trevorrow is coming across as a person where if a lot of people don't like his movie, he's going to say, well, you know what? Obviously, I need to do something better. There are things that I need to change about myself to improve the product. Because at the end of the day, it's all about making the product better. And I think that is so important for any franchise, especially Star Wars, because Star Wars is one of the most successful IPs in recent history, in probably all of history when it comes to films. And guess what's happening? That IP is being destroyed by the people running Lucasfilm right now. And that's what we care about. And that's what we want them to care about too. But unfortunately, they're not showing that same care that we are. And again, Colin Trevorrow is pointing that out, saying that there needs to be passion on both sides. The fans have to love it, but so also the people making the content have to love it too. And if there isn't a connection there, there's no way that it can succeed. There's no way that it can go forward. He goes on to say, when Jurassic fans hold our feet to the fire, it's not out of hatred. Thank you very much. Same thing for Star Wars. It's not out of hatred. It's out of love. It's because they don't want us to forget the wonder and respect for the natural world that the first movie had. Ring, 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 original trilogy, and they're right to do it. Thank you very much. Once again, it's not that we are wrong in our opinions, because again, it is an opinion. I will never say, and when I'm trying to state something that's a fact, I will say this is a fact, this is truth, this is based on numbers, this is based on reality. But a lot of times I say this is just my opinion, and not everyone's going to agree with it. But at the end of the day, look what he says. He says, and he understands, the fans are not showing anger for a film or frustration with the film, because there are a lot. Look at the Rotten Tomatoes scores. It's like 50-50 with both critics and audiences when it comes to Jurassic World 2. But guess what Colin Trevorrow is not doing? He's not saying, oh, they're just a bunch of racists, they're just a bunch of sexists, they don't understand my vision, oh, their expectations were subverted. No, he's not doing that at all. He's saying, no, they're holding our feet to the fire because they don't hate the franchise. They love the franchise. They want the franchise to succeed, as we do as well. And so therefore, that's why when it comes to films and their fans, they have to work together. The people have to work together if they want it to succeed. Because the people who are going to go to pay to go see the movie, who are going to continue to give money to the franchise so that it can continue to grow, they need to like the content. And if the content's not being liked, then something has to be changed. But the problem is with Lucasfilm is that we've shown our concern for over 7, 8 months now since The Last Jedi came out, and they've done nothing. They've just doubled down, and now it's gotten even worse because now they're starting to attack the fans, as they have been for a very long time now. And it's just ridiculous. What they're doing is they're tearing the universe apart, or as Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers likes to say, they're breaking the fandom. Last Jedi really broke the fandom, especially the reaction from Lucasfilm and the people at Lucasfilm in reaction to it as well. He goes on, it's easy to point fingers at the fandom. Again, Lucasfilm, it's easy to point fingers at the fandom, but the anger and aggression online is being enabled and encouraged by certain fan sites who don't give a crap about fans. They need the fire because the flams are their business model. So again, this is going back to how a lot of these fan sites, supposed fan sites, are really just trying to feed the fire. They're trying to keep this going. And in the end, what they're doing is they're not only hurting the franchise, but also they're hurting their own reputation at the same time. So spot on once again. Colin continues, I'd love to see more decency in the way we voice our frustrations about the franchises we love, but we also need to take the financial incentive out of stoking toxicity for clicks. It's dishonest to blame the fans while stirring the pot. Damn right. Damn right, Colin Trevorrow. You're absolutely right here. Once again, it is dishonest to blame the fans while you stir the pot. While Rian Johnson stirs the pot, it's dishonest for Lucasfilm to blame the fans and say, oh, that's the fans are the toxic ones, when you have Rian Johnson who's just like, on his Twitter saying, oh, I'm going to attack this person today. Because that's what he's doing. He's a little man-child who's just attacking the fans. He loves to call people like us man-babies, yet he's the one who's just attacking people for not liking his film. Again, I don't understand it. But he also says, Colin Trevorrow, and this is a point that I've made on several times before about language and decency. I really think it's important for us to be able to, again, I don't like using terms like man baby, but when someone like Rian Johnson really just lives up to the term, it's hard to avoid using that term to describe him. But Colin Trevorrow is just spot on once again that we need to have more decency in how we interact with each other. Because again, we can disagree. You can like The Last Jedi. I know a lot of people who do like The Last Jedi. I also know a lot more people who don't like The Last Jedi. But we can still have a respectful discussion with each other. We can still respect our opinions without trying to attack one another and call each other's names out of the blue. Now, if someone calls me a racist or a sexist, you're damn right I'm going to defend myself, and you're damn right that I'm going to try and show the errors of that person's mindset and thinking. So that's the reason why I ever act in that way, is when someone else, because again, Ryan Johnson called me, or people like me, racist and sexist, which is just so far from the truth, and that's the reason why I react this way to when he says this, because I feel like those words are too important, or they were so important until people like him and other SJWs like him just totally, you know, essentially bastardized the term and just made it mean so little, and that's just bad. When words like that have no meaning, that's very bad for society and very bad for our culture. And so that's why it's so important for people like them to understand what the words they're actually using. I made this point in a previous stream, or rather on someone else's live stream, when they were talking about how the term SJW can sometimes be overused. I know Jeremy did a stream on this as well, or rather he did a video on this, saying we can't become like the SJWs themselves, who like to use terms like racist and sexist and use SJW every single time a movie comes out. He was trying to say that people are trying to say The Incredibles 2 is SJW, which it really isn't, or Ant-Man and the Wasp is SJW, which again, really it isn't. Might there be some small parts that might be? Yeah, but it's not enough to really say, oh, this whole thing is SJW. The difference, though, between overusing the two terms is that SJW just means social justice warrior, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that phrase. There's nothing inherently wrong with wanting social justice. We use the term in a negative way, just trying to say these are people who really don't want social justice. What they want is they want some forced diversity, forced equality that really isn't equality or diversity at all. And that's what we're criticizing. It's much different for someone to call me a racist or a sexist, because there is a lot more negative, and rightly so, negative connotation to those words, that it could hurt someone's career, it could hurt someone for a very long time. So that's why there's such a difference between using a term like SJW versus a racist or a sexist, but I just wanted to make that point because I do think it's very, very important. All right, so that pretty much wraps up what Colin Trevorrow was talking about. What do you think about it? Have you read Colin Trevorrow's tweets? Please let me know. I would love to hear your feedback on this. I would love to hear your feedback on what he has to say. All I will say about this, to finish up this topic about Colin Trevorrow, is that Lucasfilm should hire Colin Trevorrow not as a director, not even as a writer. Again, I'm not going to defend him as a director or writer. I have a lot of problems with him. And you know what, though? He would respect my opinion on that, because he at least is a sensible human being. I don't know what his politics is. I don't know anything else about him, but at least he comes across as being a very commonsensical person, and I can always engage with someone who is grounded in common sense. But the one thing I can say to Lucasfilm is hire him as your PR representative, at the very least. Because if you want to know how to get the trust of the fans back, if you want to know how to make people happy, or if you want to know how to really, you know, set yourself up for success in the future, because if you keep doing what you're doing, Lucasfilm, looking at you, Ryan Johnson especially, Episode 9, your supposed future trilogy, are done. They're not going to make money. You're essentially just going to continue to implode the universe itself, the Star Wars universe itself, and we don't want that. We do not want the fan base. We don't want the universe. We do not want Star Wars to be destroyed. We want Star Wars to succeed, but you got to start acting like our boy Colin Trevorrow here. You got to start listening to the fans and respecting the fans and what they have to say. All right, guys, thank you all so much for watching. Hit that like button if you like this video. Share it as well. Also, subscribe if you haven't done so already. I would greatly appreciate it. Have a great day, and as always, God bless.